I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome to Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting. It is June 17th. Roll call, please.
Gabriel,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Gookin,
Yes.
Wood,
Here.
English.
Here.
All right, we have an invocation from Kurt Anderson. Kurt, are you here? We're going to move along to Pledge of Allegiance. Kenny, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Mr. Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kenny. I have a couple of proclamations. So 18 years, Peter Luthrup has been on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So if you'll come up, Peter and Amy, you're going to present this for Peter. We think it's a big deal, Peter. I know you don't like the attention, but tough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a hard time hearing back there. I thought that not the PA system, but anyway, I have my hearing aids in. But be advised that I get somewhat emotional. It's a hangover from my grandfather, I'm sure. So I apologize in advance, but they're tears of joy whenever they appear. So with that,
Okay,
thank
second.
you very, very much.
We're going to present it. We're going to read it to you, make you cry.
I just
Okay? Just
want to get it over with.
sit there and take it. You're worth it.
All right. Hi, Peter. It is my honor to share this with you today. Whereas Peter Luthrup has dedicated 18 years of service to the Coeur d'Alene Planning and Zoning Commission, equating to 3 full terms with unwavering commitment and exceptional dedication. And whereas Peter's contributions have been instrumental in guiding the growth of our community through his involvement with the 2022 to 2042 Comprehensive Plan, updated impact fees, numerous amendments to zoning code, and more than 400 public hearings. Whew. And whereas Peter has been a loyal member of the Tubbs Hill Foundation Board and participated in the Coeur d'Alene Parks Department's Open Space Committee and Parks Master Plan Subcommittee, and whereas Peter has served under 4 mayors since 2007, his long tenure has been a testament to his character, professionalism, and positive influence. And whereas Peter's dedication and hard work has positively impacted the Coeur d'Alene community. And now, therefore, I, Amy Evans, on behalf of Woody McEvers, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim June 17th, 2025 is Peter Luthrup Day. In honor of his long and distinguished service.
So as I recall, when I first met you, I think you were sitting in another commission where Christie was sitting.
Congratulations.
Thank you very, very much, Amy. Thank you all very much. I'm a big supporter of local government. I mean, it's the best. You have discussions amongst you. Everybody knows what you're talking about. Everybody gets the background. Everybody gets what you get. You make your discussions and you make a decision. And you know why you vote. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. Want to recognize my wife, who can't come tonight. She's my Jiminy Cricket. I want to recognize my daughter, her son-in-law, and 3 grandchildren in Olympia, and my other daughter here in the audience. I appreciate this. And I don't know how to behave, but I'm very proud of being able to serve with you or help you or do something. Whatever I did, it was enjoyable. I think this started back in the late 1950s. Down where we lived, there were the Smiths, the Barclays, the Crimps, the Foxes, and across the street, the Luthrups. And the Gunlacks were up the hill a little bit. And with that, John and I were the seniors, the senior boys in the neighborhood. I mean, this is when you'd come from the beach, you quit swimming it when the 4 o'clock whistle blew, you'd quit playing quick kick the can when the streetlights went on. But that didn't stop John and I from knowing everything, because we were the boys and we were the oldest. And we started talking to Sandy about things way back then and telling her, how she could do better. Do this, do that. Well, that continued on as we grew up, matured. We didn't see Sandy that much, but didn't stop us from giving us for John and I to give her our advice. Not well-founded, we didn't know what we're talking about, but we knew what she should do. So after about 40 years, I retired and came back to Coeur d'Alene. And Sandy is very diplomatic, very nice, and she talked to me one time. Essentially what she said is, Pete, this is the time you can either put up or shut up. If you want to understand what your city's like, volunteer. It is not the cities of the 50s. And I think that's how I got here. And I'm very glad I did. Now, there may be some other people watching tonight that are the Sandys and the Johns and the Petes of this world. I encourage you to volunteer, no matter what you do. It's just enjoyable. It's wonderful. So I thank you for this, and I have one public service announcement, if I may. And that is that the Art Manley Scott Reed July 5th cleanup on Tubbs Hill begins at 8:30 on the 5th of July, which I believe is a Saturday. Goes from 8:30 to noon, and Huckleberry ice cream will be available about 11 o'clock. So with that, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
We don't want him to step down quite yet, so he gets his nameplate, for all the years served. It even has a little, wear and tear. But,
I could still put it up here when I come by
the
myself.
planning department is super appreciative of all you have done for us and all the meetings that you have sat through. And then we have our chairman and vice chairman from the Planning and Zoning Commission to make a few remarks, so thank you
good.
for that. We have Tom Messina
Okay.
and John Ingalls, and then we'll do a quick group photo, and then we'll move
Okay.
along. Thank you.
Quick rebuttal.
I just want to say thank you, Peter, for 18 years of sharing Tuesday evenings with me. I appreciate
It was
it.
very enjoyable,
Yes.
even the nights you wore hats.
That's right, whatever it was. But you have been great to work with. Thank you, and congratulations on your
Thank you.
retirement. And I
Thank
hope
you.
you enjoy Tuesday evenings, whatever you do.
I can drink wine.
Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. That's all I needed to say. Thank you.
I got a couple things to say. First, I would say if planning and zoning gave out awards, Chairman Messina would get the best legs award. He usually wears shorts, and
It's formal.
Peter, on the other hand, would earn the most prepared award. You guys, you get these packets, they're this thick or what, double-sided, this thick. I sit next to Peter, 4 different colors of highlighter. There's, paper clips, sticky notes, dog ears. What it tells, he's been through that packet for hours and hours and hours. And that translates to asking good questions, being informed, and he really knows his stuff. So that's with that. Second point, and Peter talked a little bit about volunteering. And there's a fellow that used to sit up there in the big stage, Dave Walker. Dave used to always say, there's 2 people in Coeur d'Alene. There's residents and there's citizens. Residents pay the bills and they go about their day and they're fine and whatnot. On the other hand, citizens put their shoulder behind things. They volunteer, your word, step up to the plate and get the work done. You guys are all citizens up there. Here's a citizen right here. Citizen Pete, this is your day.
Thank you.
Well done, and thank you for your service.
Yay.
Oh, you got it. Oh,
Yeah,
So
we
we
gotta
know.
get a photo with you. Thank you so much.
All right, next up,
Thank you.
I've got HRI Executive Director Jeanette Laster's up for Juneteenth Day. Welcome, Jeanette, and Dan is going to read the proclamation for you.
Okay, this Dan.
Oh.
Dan two, not
Had me
Dan one.
panicked there
So,
for a second.
Oh, sorry.
whereas on September 22nd, 1862, with the Emancipation Proclamation, President Abraham Lincoln changed the legal status of enslaved black people in the Confederate States from a slave to a free people, a status only enjoyed previously by white people. And whereas on June 19, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce the end of the Civil War and the abolition of slavery to approximately 250,000 people still in bondage in Texas, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, making a pivotal moment in the fight for freedom and equality for black and African Americans. And whereas the 117th U.S. Congress enacted and Joseph R. Biden Jr., 46th President of the United States of America, signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law and proclaimed June 19, 2021 as Juneteenth Day in observance, establishing the 12th federal holiday and the first new federal holiday since Martin Luther King Day was adopted in 1983. And whereas the state of Idaho is home to a resilient and proud community of black and African Idahoans, for some the history goes back generations of miners, explorers, trappers, and soldiers plying their trade in Idaho. Whereas Juneteenth is a day to reflect on the historical and real current struggle for freedom and equality, and to recognize the continued need towards progress towards a more just society. And whereas this day serves as a reminder to the enduring legacy of freedom and the importance of working together to ensure that all people have the opportunity to live free from oppression. Therefore, I, Dan English, on behalf of Woody McEvers, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do proclaim June 19, 2025 as Juneteenth Day. In Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, recognizing the historical significance of Juneteenth, supporting the continued celebration of Juneteenth to provide an understanding for the people of Coeur d'Alene to learn more about the past, to better understand the experiences that have shaped the nation, and encourage the people of Coeur d'Alene to observe Juneteenth with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs, promoting a more inclusive and equitable community, and recommitting to the freedom of equality and justice for all. And I've got the
Jeanette?
real deal.
Thank you, Jeanette, for coming out.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Mayor McEvers, council members, staff, and community for allowing this time to speak to you. At the Human Rights Education Institute, part of our mission is to celebrate diversity and human rights through education and programming that teaches about our history and understanding varying perspectives of our community. One way we do this is to teach about cultural holidays, and today I'd just like to take a moment to briefly share a little history and why Juneteenth Day is so important in our region. As mentioned in the proclamation, September 22nd, 62, President Lincoln issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. This declared that if the Confederate States did not rejoin the Union by January 1st, 1863, all enslaved people in those rebellious states would be freed. On Freedom's Eve, the first watch night services took place. Enslaved and free African Americans gathered, awaiting news for the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. Although their prayers were answered, it was only through the 13th Amendment that emancipation actually ended slavery through the United States. In the westernmost Confederate state of Texas, more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were finally freed by executive decree 2.5 years later. This day came to be known as Juneteenth. By the end of the Civil War, approximately 180,000 black or African Americans had served in the Union Army. Black troops, known as Buffalo Soldiers, in the days when the U.S. Army was segregated from 1866 to the early 1950s, were sent by train from Fort Wright in Spokane to Fort Sherman in Coeur d'Alene and played a significant role in the history of North Idaho, particularly during the Big Burn of 1910 and the Idaho Mining War. Their Their all-black regiments were known for their bravery and dedication, earning the respect of the local communities. They were deployed to various locations in North Idaho, including Wallace and Avery, to enforce martial law, fight wildfires, and protect mining property. The Juneteenth flag uses symbols and colors to represent the holiday's significance. The red, white, and blue colors mirror the American flag, signifying that enslaved people and their descendants are Americans. The curved arc represents a new horizon and hope for the future, while the central star honors Texas, where Juneteenth originated, and is called back to the U.S. flag, representing that Black people are free in all 50 states. For a little perspective, between 1500 and 1820, 12.5 million African men, women, and children were taken from Africa and sold to various slave trades around the world. About 410,000 were brought to the United States. As of 2010, there were 42 million. The Black and African American presence in Idaho started small. Just 60 free colored men and women were recorded by the territorial census in 1870. One of the earliest known is York, a frontiersman, hunter, and likely the first African American to cross the continent. York was an American explorer who made important contributions to the Lewis and Clark expedition. However, he was not free and was enslaved by Captain William Clark, and after the expedition's return, was denied his payment and his freedom. Jeannie Eva Hughes, class of 1899, was the first African American to graduate from University of Idaho. She won the prestigious Watkins Medal for Oratory in 1898 and graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree, one of 7 students in the class of 1899. In 1948, after racial discrimination prevented them from buying property elsewhere in the city, the Haymans bought the sandstone house at 617 Ash Street in Boise. Mrs. Irma Hayman was a vital advocate for her community, serving many years on the River Street Neighborhood Council and acting as the chair from 73 to 74. The Irma Hayman House is now a historic site and cultural center that celebrates and amplifies the stories of historically underrepresented communities, past and present, through inclusive, culturally mindful public programs. Boy, that was a mouthful, sorry. Dr. Thomas Lee Peirce is a third-generation Idahoan and the grandson of pioneering Black Idahoans who came to Idaho in 1909. He became the first Black man to serve in public office in Idaho when he was elected to Pocatello's City Council in 1973 and became the city's first Black mayor in 1976. There are more than 350,000 Black and African American active duty and select reserve United States military members currently serving around the world, and over 2.4 million Black and African American veterans in the U.S. Unfortunately, despite our commitment to be an inclusive community, the Idaho State Police reported 54 hate crime incidences in 2023, matching the previous peak in 2020, and out of those 54 incidences, 18 were specifically against Black people or African Americans. Data from the U.S. Justice Department for 2022 indicates that 70% of reported hate crimes in Idaho were against a person's race, ethnicity, or ancestry. After recently experiencing hateful acts against its African American citizens and visitors, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Human Rights Education Institute and concerned citizens of Coeur d'Alene, we would like to thank the City of Coeur d'Alene's Council and leadership for swiftly approving a new hate crime ordinance in an effort to demonstrate its commitment to no tolerance to racism in our beautiful city. Thank you. In closing, I would like to invite our community to HREI's annual regional leadership panel discussion this Thursday at 11 a.m. at HREI's building. Together, local city and county representatives, students, members of color, and marginalized groups from our communities answer questions, tell their stories, and find solutions to move past racial and equity disparities and into a new change in culture and collaboration. Our guest experts are motivational speaker and equity specialist Katara Johnson-Jones and Dr. Scott Finney, Director of African American Studies at Eastern Washington University. And thank you to Councilmember Dan Gukin for attending as our City of Coeur d'Alene representative. Thank you again for the opportunity to present this educational moment and recognizing such an important day in our nation's history. The historical legacy of Juneteenth shows the value of never giving up hope in uncertain times. We appreciate the proclamation.
Thank you, Jeanette. Great job. All right, moving on. Katie, are you going to kind of talk about our financial statement, the end of the year audit?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I am pleased to be here to present our fiscal year 24 overview of our financial statements that we've just completed a audit with an independent firm, Alpine Summit. Alpine Summit typically prepares a presentation and gives presentation to council. However, their representative had a emergency, so I am here. I've been living and breathing the numbers alongside of them, so I'm happy to read their slides. So why do we get an audit? Idaho state statutes require that a municipality like us have an audit every year by an independent CPA firm. And so we have completed that for the past fiscal year. And the purpose of an audit is for management of the city to provide the trial balance, all of the accounts, the debit and credit activity of all the accounts of the city. And the auditors go through, they do testing, and they come up with an opinion of the accuracy as far as whether or not the numbers can be relied upon. So our auditors have given an unmodified opinion, which is considered a clean opinion on our fiscal year 24 financials. And that is in the audit report on page 1 through 3. They also have a report on the internal controls of the city, which is very important to ensure that the city is following best practices as far as segregation of duties and the other number of internal controls that help safeguard the assets of the city. So they also provided an unmodified opinion, and that is detailed on pages 92 through 93. And we also have a report on compliance for our federal funds, and this is required by the federal government. And we have not had any issues in the report on that. We were determined a low-risk auditee. So just a few financial highlights in the general fund. We talk a lot about the general fund because it's the chief operating fund of the city. And at the end of the fiscal year, the fund balance of the general fund was $19 million. We had an unassigned fund balance of $12 million, which represents 22% of general revenues. That is within the recommendations from Government Finance Officers Association. Our general fund operating revenues increased by $4.2 million. A number of these, if not all, were one-time events. We did have an increase in property taxes of $830,000 in FY24. There was an increase in the revenues for ARPA funds. We do not recognize the revenues until the allowable expenditures are made, and so we had we finished up a number of large projects in FY24. So we recognized those revenues. One-time revenue sources, one of them was a $1.57 million settlement from ICRIMP for the police department storage fire. And so that we didn't spend much of that because a lot of the items that need to be purchased also need to be stored. And so some of those purchases are waiting on the building to be completed. And then there was a $1.185 million land transfer reimbursement from Ignite. And this is sort of an odd revenue to state in financial statements. It's not an operating revenue, it's a one-time revenue that Ignite was paying back for a land purchase, that the general fund lended money for that.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, sure that wasn't the wastewater fund? Or was that general fund?
So a portion of that, it was lended from wastewater. The general fund did loan 1.185 million. And so in our wastewater, we have a separate fund for our wastewater portion of the loan, and they did make a payment on that. And you'll see in our capital projects funds that it's been a negative balance. I think it was negative 5 million last year. Now it's at about negative 3 to 4 million. And so that is reflecting the payment from Ignite on the wastewater related bonds,
Okay,
or
thank you.
loans, sorry, excuse me.
Thank you.
So general fund operating expenditures increased 6.16, that should say million, or 12%. Of that, we can attribute to 2.6 million for public safety, and we also had an increase in capital outlay of 1.78 million, and that is attributed to the ARPA funds construction projects. So here's a general fund revenue and expenditure comparison, and you see in FY24 we showed that sort of leveling off as far as revenues versus expenditures, but in 2024 we are seeing that expenditures exceeded revenues. Here's a breakdown of the different types of classifications that we have for our general fund balance. And unassigned fund balance is, the city has discretion over those dollars. Those other categories are assigned or committed to different projects, or for example, the Lake Coeur d'Alene Drive, I think it is, there's some revenue there that is being held in the fund balance to pay for repairs on that road. So those types of items. We also have the remaining settlement from ICRIMP for the police department facility that burned down. We are holding it in fund balance as we wait for those expenditures to come in, which will come in this fiscal year and continue into next. So fund balance is important. Government entities like the city of Coeur d'Alene can have inconsistent revenues. Property taxes, one of our main sources, comes in 2 payments per year. Our state payments, which are a large source of our revenue, come in quarterly. So having a healthy fund balance is important for cash management for the city. It also helps us address unexpected emergencies, and we have uncertainty with state and federal funding, and they protect the city. We don't want to necessarily be borrowing. In some cases, if our cash balances were to go low, we may have to borrow from our other funds or an outside source. And one item that is of importance at the moment is qualifying for a lower interest cost as we move into the bond sale. So I touched on this. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends a minimum of 60 days, 2 months of general fund operating revenues in our fund balance as unassigned. Here's where we stand when you look at our revenues. We would have 80 days of revenues. And when I prefer to look at expenditures personally, because revenues can fluctuate, and we would be at 75 days for 2024, so within that guideline. Just a couple of highlights in our 2 largest proprietary funds. Water fund revenue decreased by $118,000. That can depend on the season, what sort of summer the city had, and that is a 2% decrease from prior year. Operating costs increased by $324,000, a 4% increase from prior year. That can be attributed to salary and benefit increases. that have been part of an ongoing contract citywide. Net loss was 91,000. 2023 was an income of 352,000. Our wastewater fund operating revenue increased by just under 640,000, and that is a 5% increase. Operating expenses increased by 731,000, and that can also be attributed to not only salary and benefits costs, but also capital projects that they're working through as part of the capital projects plan. Net income from operations was 4.1 million. And 2023 was 4.2 million. The water fund operating revenues and expenses, you see 2024 was close to breaking even. And wastewater fund, the revenues exceeded the expenditures, and it's my understanding that is part of the rate study plan for wastewater fund. And I will stand for any questions.
Council. Mr. Gookin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it. I just want to help with your understanding, my understanding of a couple of things. And so I went through the audit and I looked through things that have changed dramatically. And I know you didn't do this, you're just reporting this. So this is, I know you're filling in for Tony.
I prepare a number of the financial statements and write some of the notes. Tony prepared the slides you see today.
Very good. So one of the things I noticed that had changed radically from last year to this year is something called the custodial credit risk. It's on page 35. And so last year it was at 500,000, and this year it's at 13.5 million. And can you just explain what we're doing with that money, why and why it's considered at risk?
Yeah, so Idaho has laws that restrict our abilities to purchase financial or invest money, and there are regulations. We really can't put anything riskier than a treasury, and so that line is not related to that concept. But I just want to make sure that that the city has practices that are aligned with Idaho law, and are also ensure that the city's cash balances are in a secured sort of bank account or CD or treasury funds. So that line item, off of the top of my head, I do not know the big change. I can speculate that it has something to do with the some investments are fully collateralized, which means beyond the $250,000 of FDIC insured dollars, we pay for all of that to be insured in the same fashion. And that can come at a cost. It would reduce our return on the investments. And so off the top of my head, I think it may be related to that, but I'd be happy to dig into that a little bit more and just ensure or give you assurance that the city's funds are secure.
Yeah, and that's kind of, the language that they're using here, and I know this is the government language, is, custodial credit risk. And so that's like, is this really a risk? But if the goal of this is to generate more revenue for us, in other words, investment revenue, and it's all legal and you're okay with it and everything, then it sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
So, but I just say it's kind of like the way they state that, it seems kind of alarming. And especially for as a jump from $500,000 to 13.5 million seems like, whoa, what's going on here? So if you're happy, I think we're happy.
And, a lot of the audit, we try and provide context to the numbers, and I think that disclosure probably needs some wording in order to explain those changes. So I will ensure that's in there next year.
Great, thank you. And then the other question, and I already went over with this with you just before the meeting, and so I appreciate your responses. So on page 39, we talk about lease income under note 5 to the financial statement, and it lists the various things we have leased, but it doesn't list all of them. So is there a threshold below which the audit would not list some of our leases?
I would have to ask Alpine Summit. That they're the experts as far as what would require a disclosure, and so I will follow up on that and get you an answer.
Well, I do appreciate that, and thank you again for working on this and for providing those answers. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else, questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, congratulations on a clean audit. That's
That was
really
good.
remarkable. Well done.
Thank you. I have to thank my staff too. They're wonderful. So.
Thanks, Katie.
And, Mr. Mayor, my
I'm sorry.
follow-up, Kate, I'm just assuming because in here, this 12% increase that you noted with the expenditures and operating from the general fund, we're gonna have more detail on what that looks like when our financial workshops or budget comes up, along with the water rate expansion plan that is part of it, and
Yes.
explain those
Yeah,
dramatic
that
differences.
especially the water rate plan sort of feeds into the conversation we've been having on where the cash is going to come from for those needed projects. And the other percentage increases, I plan to, during budget, go through where we're seeing the increases, why they're there, and, are they one time, are they ongoing? And that's important information going into budget season to look back at prior years, so,
And the 12% being a little more dramatic than normal.
Yes.
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, thanks, Katie.
Yep, great.
All right, we're moving on to public comments. Hopefully, everybody that wants to talk is signed up. If you haven't, there's probably another sheet out there. I'm gonna go right down the list. Jim Coeur, Coeur d'Alene, come on down, Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Becoming a regular.
I'm here on a friendly errand this time.
What?
I'm representing your friends and neighbors on North 7th Street, where we have those two giant, dangerous cottonwood trees. And I watch school children pass under them every day and so forth, and other children in the neighborhood playing in the reach of those branches and limbs. I want to thank you, council members and mayor, for doing whatever you did behind the scenes. Because tomorrow morning, those 100-foot giants are coming down. And I'm so excited. So, if you're not doing anything at 7 or 7:30 tomorrow morning, come by. The 1500 block of North 7th Bluebird Tree Service will be doing its thing. And I thank you very much, and I can't wait.
Thanks, Jim.
I wonder if he can come answer our phones for all the people who are going to be mad about those trees coming down that
Are you
don't
gonna
know the
have
backstory.
You gonna have cookies and coffee and stuff?
Those
you
are the
know?
cranky people.
Laura McCroskey. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Mayor McEvers and council members. And I thank you so much for your very important Juneteenth proclamation. And I want to thank also Jeanette Laster for her very informative presentation on the history of Juneteenth and of all the wonderful contributions of persons of color in this state. I represent Idaho for All, which is a newly convened group of concerned citizens. We are trying to tackle some projects and activities that will hope to make a more inclusive Idaho. And last year, in response to the incident with the Utah women's basketball team, we decided we wanted to do something to address that. So we ended up holding the first Juneteenth commemorative walk. It was a great success. And this Thursday, we have our second annual Juneteenth walk. We'll begin at 501 East Wallace at St. Luke's Episcopal Church. We'll proceed down 7th Avenue, I think well away from where those trees were, so I think we're safe. We'll go on to Sherman Avenue and proceed down in a very orderly manner, no disruption of traffic. We will obey traffic signals and walk carefully. Our purpose is to remember Juneteenth and also to honor all of our citizens and visitors who have been harmed by racism and bigotry, and also to celebrate the diversity of our neighbors and visitors. And we're going to end our walk at Independence Point, and we're going to have some music and a little bit of a celebration and gathering. So I would like to invite everyone to join us. It starts at 5 p.m., as I said, 501 East Wallace, and we'll go for probably about an hour and then have some celebratory stuff. So anyway, please join us, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. Justin, all the way from Rathdrum, you're becoming a regular, Justin.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Mr. Mayor and Council. I was just kind of coming down for a follow-up on what I discussed last time, and an email that I sent in to you guys about the Idaho State Police fabricating investigations. And you guys have a responsibility, of course, you all know that, to protect your citizens against anybody. And world history and our history has taught us that that means other governments also. So specifically in the email that I sent you, the Idaho State Police was fabricating investigations that officers working outside their jurisdictions were on DUI emphasis patrol, which their employer, in this case was the city of Post Falls, absolutely made it clear that they were not engaged in any DUI emphasis patrols, while their officer is out pulling over juveniles. Of course, juvenile records are sealed, so it makes it a little bit harder to look into. Now, you guys have a DUI emphasis patrol coming up that you're participating with the Idaho State Police, I'm sure, of course, for the 4th of July. They're not a trustworthy organization, and when you engage in activities with people that aren't trustworthy, it lowers the standard of your police department. You know, it's really important here is that you can get into public corruption complaints, of course, go to the Idaho Attorney General. So you guys looking into those things, you could file a public corruption complaint against the Idaho State Police to look into, to the Idaho Attorney General for them to look into it along with your police department. And not taking action to protect people can also be a public corruption complaint to the Idaho Attorney General. So there's a lot more things going on there. The county prosecutor is aware of it and doing more. So I think it'd be in the best interest of your citizens to look into it. That's all I came down to say. I appreciate your time and thank you for the forum.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Catherine Boss. Is Catherine still here? Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you. I came to bring an issue that's come up in the Fort Grounds neighborhood. Several people are concerned about safety on the 4th of July. In years past, we had barricades that were brought in to limit or stop the number of cars that come into the 3-block area close to where the fireworks are put off. And that stopped. The last 2 years, we haven't had them. The residents, we man them and just allow people after a certain time in the evening that are residents or visiting a resident. So it was never to try to prevent people from coming in there, but by 6 o'clock in the evening, there's no parking anywhere in those 3 blocks in the Fort Grounds. So cars would just come in and drive around. And then Lakeshore Drive itself was barricaded off so that cars weren't driving by while people are getting ready to watch and watching the fireworks. And the last 2 years, we haven't had the barricades. And it's a safety issue. There's people lined along both sides of Lakeshore Drive. Kids, families, picnics, their lawn chairs, and kids are running around, and there's cars going by. And even during the fireworks, there'll be cars driving on Lakeshore Drive, and they'll not be able to find any place to park, so they'll just slow down and sometimes stop in the road and block everyone that's sitting there from watching the event. So I don't know if you're aware that this was something that was happening for many years, and it's not happening now, and we're wondering if we can get the barricades back. And the residents there will monitor them. But, Ann Milbourne, who was the Fort Grounds Homeowners Association president, and sold her home and moved, was in charge of organizing this, apparently, and we're wondering if we can organize that again.
Seems reasonable.
Does anybody have any comments or information on what we can do to try to make it more safe?
We have been addressing it with the street department, and I think Troy's gonna talk to the board.
We talked to the
Board pres?
city police. They say they don't have manpower to monitor, to man them, which understand. But they haven't, but we've been monitoring it, the residents, for several years, many years, decades, probably.
So, Mr. Mayor, I could jump in here. Troy Tymason, City Administrator. The homeowner's president is out of town for a number of weeks. I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to let me know he was gone, because we need a meeting to discuss this subject matter and update everyone on where we're at with resources are limited. We don't have barricades. We can't be shutting down streets and putting you good citizens in harm's way manning those. So that's why that ended, and had made that happen. And I know we had other representatives here that were helping out with that. So we would love to get together. And I can reach out to the councilman that lives closest to that neighborhood and find out if there's someone else that could attend the meeting, so we could definitely put a reader board up that says local traffic only. That will happen again. That's all planned out, but I didn't know Mr. Burns was going to be out of town.
Now, did you say you want somebody who lives down there to be on this, or somebody who just
you, Dan.
Well, I'd be happy.
Well, and I am the big vice president, and Jonathan asked me to come here and just bring it to your attention, so that's what I'm
But
doing.
if you need a neutral arbitrator, I'd be happy to help, so, okay.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ted Turrentine. Ted? Welcome, Ted.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just some comments about the labor negotiations that evidently you guys are engaged in right now. First of all, I'm a retired CDA homeowner. And just in general, wanted to be sure that we are kept in mind on these upcoming labor negotiations with the city employees and the police, and how they might affect our property taxes in the future, any increase or decrease in those negotiations for the employees. Our property tax statement, the CDA portion went up 7.74% in the our latest statement, and I was informed by Katie Ebner in the finance department that a portion of that was from increased personnel costs And for reference, our Social Security increase was 2.5% this year. I'm sure you guys know that. And the city employees was 3%. So I'm sure you're going to be doing, you and your negotiators are going to be doing all you can to keep us in mind as far as these personnel costs not going up. And during these negotiations, I thought I discovered 19 current contract negotiations for the city employees that are, there's 19 compensations that are in addition to regular wages. And so I would hope that you wouldn't maybe increase that amount at the risk of that being passed along for increased property taxes. And some of the things that I think could possibly be lowered or even eliminated in the city contract are accrual of sick leave pay. Not sure that people need to be rewarded for not using their sick leave. Bereavement pay falls into the category of regular life events that happen to everyone. And this is something that's come into labor negotiations, I think, in the past couple of decades is, bereavement pay and family emergency leave and things like that. They're just life events that happen to everyone, and I'm not sure that the taxpayers should be on the hook for those kinds of things. But yeah, well, I've got a lot more here, but just keep us in mind when you're doing these labor negotiations, and us retired seniors would definitely like to stay in our homes, so thank you.
Thanks, Ted. Patty Jester. Patty, welcome.
Mayor and council members, I'm here also just to kind of reiterate what Catherine Boss has already said about wanting to have the barricades put back into the neighborhood of the Fort Grounds. My husband and I have lived in the Fort Grounds for 46 years, and we have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly on the 4th of July down there. And the good was when the streets were closed and we didn't have the car traffic. That is really important when it's a rainy, cold 4th of July, because families want to drive grandma and stuff around to see the fireworks and park. And if it's rainy and cold, there's a lot of other people with the same idea. If it's a nice, it's not as much of an issue. We have seen traffic gridlock, total, absolute gridlock when it's been a bad, cool 4th of July or just a very popular one, where emergency vehicles, EMTs couldn't get down there, a fire truck couldn't get down there, and I don't want someone's home to be burned down because of fireworks that are landing on their roof, nor someone that needs medical attention to not be able to receive it because they simply can't get in there. And that has happened, and we have seen it. So I just want to encourage you to really consider what can be done. We're just very landlocked with the river and the lake and the city park. It does create a gridlock situation. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Patty. Elizabeth Jensen. Don't be afraid, Liz.
She said it's the same topic.
She doesn't want
to speak.
I was just kidding. Sorry. Okay. All right, that's all I have on the list. Anyone
I think
else?
there was one other person, or did you? Oh, I thought he was signing up. He must be signing up for something else, or? No? Okay.
So anybody else want to do public comment that didn't get to sign up here? Sure. Welcome.
What's this? I'm signing up for public comment. Sure. Yeah, I wasn't up there.
Hi.
Can we get your
What's that?
name, sir?
I think he said that there was going to be another sheet that went out. Isn't that what
Richard.
you said earlier? That there was another sheet that was going to go out?
There would be.
There
Can I
was?
get your first name?
It wasn't there, right?
No. You're good.
No, okay, cool.
We'll work with you.
My name's Elmedi El-Kasimi. I came last time to speak with you guys. Is this a public computer by chance?
No.
Is it a public computer? It's a city computer?
It's a city computer? Our city computer's publicly funded?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a public computer, right? But last time you guys said that I couldn't present to the city while others have done so without any comment. Nobody said anything. People walked up, used the computer, provided evidence of their structure, whatever's happening, right? People use this computer all the time. But when I came up, you guys, Mayor, you said, oh yeah, go ahead, as long as you have the technical aptitude. Then I heard some muttering, and I said I'd provide that to you later. So I want to get a clear understanding. Is this a public computer for public access?
Randy,
to
can you
present?
help explain that better?
It is a computer purchased by the public.
Yeah.
But not everything owned by the city is
Is there-
available for public use. Presentations are prearranged and.
So you stifle comments during a public meeting, during public comments?
We do not stifle comments, no.
I'm a little bit confused though, because if it's a public computer, public comments, and I can use it, how come I couldn't use it at that particular point? What is the procedure? It's not written there, it's not written here, or any of the documentation on what procedure it takes in order to present.
Can you listen for a moment?
Sure.
So when people do presentations, we work it out beforehand. If you want to come and do a presentation.
Where's the policy on that?
Well, Randy will talk to you on that. Are you questioning everything we're doing?
No, I'm just questioning that particular instance because I feel that was a violation of my First Amendment right to speak in front of council.
Okay.
You have your First Amendment right to speak in front of council, and you're doing so now.
Okay, but so should we have a colored computer and a white computer then?
That doesn't even matter.
I'm just trying to understand because I couldn't use the computer while others were able to.
Can I make a comment?
You were told that you have
When
to
was I told?
prearrange. The mayor
Just
just
now,
told you have
but
to
not then.
prearrange things. You didn't call in advance and ask
Where is
for a
that published?
presentation. It is not. It is a policy.
So it's
of
not
the council.
published. So it's not published. There's no rule around it, and you just make it up arbitrarily. Help me understand. I just want to. That's why I'm asking. I want to understand. Is there a different computer for me?
Could
that
you
I-
hold on? And maybe
Can I
Mr. English
talk
will
for a
address
second?
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm the one that pointed out that you wanted to.
There were several others, but
Okay,
sure.
good. So I'm sure you can appreciate that, people, unfortunately, there are people who will do bad stuff, and sometimes they
A lot of
don't
people
even
jump out
know
of planes,
that if
too.
they've got could have a virus on that memory stick that goes in
There's a
there.
lot of ifs, but there has to be a
And
policy
so
around
then,
it.
Well, I don't know about that, but then I'm worried about right now what you're trying to do.
I understand that. I understand the hyperbole
So
there.
with the
and-
other
and-
ones, we've prearranged and it's clean. And so I think they're saying that if
So
you
so
wanted to do something and it was arranged, then they could.
So you have to
do that.
monitor public comment and public presentations.
No, we monitor
They're
risks
not. They're
coming
the same
into
thing.
the
If so-
network. We've had
That's
to
my
pay
opinion.
some real money.
Is that what you said, Miller?
So, okay.
All right. That was it. That's all I got.
All right.
Great.
Well, I think it's time to move on. Announcements, council. Mr. Gookin.
So what I'd like to say to address Almedi's comment is we should work on a policy on presentations for that computer so that people are not confused or frustrated in the future.
Very good.
All we have to do is just do a policy that says if you want to use the computer, here's the rules. You have to approach us, before the meeting, give us plenty of time, whatever. Just can be a couple of things that we could probably print out and stick on the table there, and approve that so that we don't have any frustrations moving forward.
Good idea.
Great idea.
Yeah.
You got that,
And
Joe?
then I must say that regarding Mr. Lutrip, once again, I'm extremely disappointed because there was no cake.
I know, no cookies. Here
You know, and we have Hillary sitting there, she's got a budget, it's full of money, and Peter Lutrip is a great guy, and that's all I gotta say.
We couldn't even let them eat cake.
Any other comments from council? Christie?
Just real
That's a
quick,
no.
Troy, I know you're gonna follow up with the Fort Ground Homeowners Association. Just the little bit that I've heard is it really is a matter of resources, that maybe we don't even have those, barriers that you'd like to borrow, but I thought that was the case. But there's approval for you to put the barriers up if you can find some. I don't know, Troy, it sounds like you're gonna follow up with the vice president now?
The vice president now.
Perfect.
And I could comment on that if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
So the thing is that we do things by policy, of course. We really don't have a policy for closing a street without a reason. And so in the city of Coeur d'Alene, you can close a street for a parade or a block party. And this is neither. So it leaves us in a weird situation in that, why would we be closing? We could close, I don't know if we can close it for public safety. I don't even know if that's an option. So that's why we met with the mayor and we talked about what can we do moving forward. It's been an ongoing issue, and it's just something that hopefully we can get accomplished without having anyone get hurt, because that is the concern of the neighbors, is that someone's gonna get hurt, because it's just a lot of people, a lot of traffic, and we want to do things right. We weren't doing them right before, because we didn't really have permission to close down the street, which someone pointed out to us. So, anyway.
Kiki?
Just a few things. I like your idea on policy. I do think presentations and public comment are two different things. They should both have policy. So that's good. I will be at the Association of Idaho Cities conference starting tomorrow, so they have some interesting stuff on the agenda, and a lot of it is surrounding housing. So that will be good. So the segue into that is I had Mr. Tymason join me for an interesting meeting with the new Region 10 representative from the Housing and Urban Development Organization, who covers 4 states, and it was kind of a surprisingly dynamic meeting. How was that to describe it? So there's some potential conversations coming out of that I don't know how soon federal government would ever work to do anything, and we don't really want federal government help anyway, but there is some willing conversations that came out of that. And then a couple of other interesting points were Hillary and some other members of the Housing Solutions Partnership. We had meetings with Senator Woodward because he and Representative Redmond are chairing the Senate 103 committee that is looking at what some of the barriers are in achieving attainable housing, and that was an appointed commission that's coming together. And I'll be testifying for that commission in August and bringing a lot of ideas from the Housing Solutions Partnership to them. So hopefully we'll have a couple months here to flesh out some good things and give some strong recommendations that maybe at the state level they can at least talk about some things to help us further address that. So I'll keep you posted as to what comes out of there.
Thank you. That's awesome, thank you. Anyone else? Kenny? All right, moving on. I would like to appoint Chris Jacquemus to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We all fell asleep.
Sorry,
Whoa
I
there.
needed cookies.
Cake.
Our sugar rush just hit.
Or cake, yes.
And opposed?
Opposed?
I'm
Motion
gonna
carries.
oppose it because I had someone who applied and I told him I would vote no because he didn't get it. So
wow.
there you go.
How much did that cost?
A lot.
A lot of cake?
Yeah,
Can you do
It's cake, yeah.
All right, look for the consent calendar, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, including resolution number 25-030.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. And
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to mention that in this Consent calendar, we do have Resolution 25030, which is our SRO agreement with the school district. This is something we've been doing for a long time, and it's good to have this partnership with them.
Agree.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Other business, canvassed election results for May 20th, 2025, election to be reflected in the minutes. What is this? Randy?
It's a requirement of state law that following an election, you have to approve the canvass of votes and let the county know. Just requires a motion and a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to recommend the canvassed election results as presented by Kootenai County be reflected in the minutes of this meeting.
Well, I will second it so that we can have some discussion.
All
Uh-oh.
right. Discussion.
Uh-oh.
Dan?
Oh, okay. Now is my, well, just that I think it was a good election. I think our election department does a great job. Of course, they had some good stuff to work with, so I'm all for this.
All right.
Other comments?
I'm for it too.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Oh, we don't
Motion
have to have a roll call.
carries. Thank you, Dan.
Good.
Council Bill 25102, an ordinance amending municipal code, blah, blah. Membership vacancies.
Blah, blah again.
Sorry. Sorry. Hillary, take it away, would you please? I need some cookies up here.
Cake.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So this is a minor amendment request that is before you. We have on our design review commission there, it's set up by membership, so there's different qualifications for the 7 commission members, and we've had a difficult time having the one seat filled that requires someone to live within one of the districts that's under the purview of the design review commission. And we've had some applicants, but they didn't qualify, and so we thought, well, why don't we try and expand that a little bit, still require that they have a vested interest, but clarify that they would need to live within the city limits and either own a business or a property within one of those districts or serve on our Historic Preservation Commission. We feel there's a lot of synergy between the 2 commissions. There's already the 1 to 2 planning and zoning commissioners can serve on Design Review Commission, and we have the Historic Preservation Commission is working together with Design Review Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission on our Downtown Core Working Group, looking at the design guidelines and development standards. So that's one of the changes. The other thing is we were looking through this, Randy and I were thinking that's kind of odd how it was worded. It says 1 member may live in the city or something, or live in Coeur d'Alene. And we thought, well, really there's 7 members, so we should let's have 6 of them live within the city limits, and then 1 can be at large, which is more similar to our other commissions in terms of structure. So that is the request that is there before you this evening. And I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Discussion?
Makes sense.
I just had a
Kiki.
question. Is this something that you brought to the current commissioners for discussion?
I had discussed with some of them previously, and there wasn't any concern with it. We didn't really get a formal vote from them.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would just say, I don't like districts because it limits participation. We don't have districts as a council. And I think it's probably past time to update.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill number 25-1012 once by title only.
Second.
Discussion? Well, that was quick. Roll call, please.
Miller?
Aye.
Evans?
Yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Gookin?
Okay.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Read the title, please.
Council Bill Number 25-1012, an ordinance of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, Idaho, amending Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code Section 29820, entitled Design Review Commission, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing a severability clause, providing for the publication of a summary of this ordinance, and an effective date hereof.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Council Bill 25-1012.
Second.
Oh,
Nope, ladies first.
Christie, you got the second? Okay. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Miller.
Aye.
Evans.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on, Hillary. We just did that. Now you want some money for it? Is that the way I'm reading it?
The money's not coming from you, so this is
Okay.
the good news.
Go ahead.
So we have an opportunity to apply for some grant funds, up to $2,500 from Idaho State Historical Society's Community Enhancement Grant Program. There is a one-to-one match, and we received $2,500, it's fortuitous, same amount as a donation from John Swallow's business earlier this year. His business is Idaho Strategic Resources. The Historic Preservation Commission has wanted to start a historic signage program. And so this would be something with the historic buildings starting in downtown, that we could have markers that indicate the building's name, the age it was built, have the new logo for the Historic Preservation Commission, and ideally a QR code that would link to the historic app that's been created by Chris Whalen and has been given to the Museum of North Idaho now. Has a lot of great photos and information on historic sites around the city and other locations. And so the goal of that is to work with, in the broader sense, the County Historic Preservation Commission and the museum, as well on kind of a cohesive signage program design. But this would get the city started in that if we were able to pursue the grant funds, use our donation as the matching, and then we would have $5,000 to start a historic signage program. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How far does 5,000 get you?
Not very far. I believe some of the signs, depending on what size and the materials, and we wanted them to be nicer, kind of the bronze one that would be mounted. But I think the nice thing with using that QR code is we wouldn't have to have as many details, so we were thinking they could be smaller. We might be able to do, I think they might be $500 per sign, depending on how large it is. We might be able to get smaller ones if we work with the local company to do multiples.
Yeah. Well, embracing our history is huge, so I'm all for this.
Anything else, Christie?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We probably don't have a policy, is what I'm guessing. I can't imagine why Hillary would have to come before us and ask for us to approve her requesting a $2,500 grant. I don't know if there's a dollar amount, if we had policy somewhere, but other departments, if they find something that's gonna work for them, they do it, and I trust your judgment. We're gonna vote yes, but I just don't think we need to drag her up here for $2,500 grant seeking.
Just for authority, isn't it? For authority
Yeah,
to have
we don't have any
spending
authority to go use that money that was donated to us. You get to approve all of that. That's why your funds are locked down until you say yes. And so we did not anticipate the grant opportunity, nor did we probably, how long have you had the donation?
Just a couple months, so it's.
So we got a donation.
Side. I got
So
you.
it's for both, so it's to apply for that and then to use the donation, and if we are awarded the grant funds, to use both of those, so it's
Great.
really funding
Thank you.
authority.
So I'm just following Christie's brilliant train of thought here.
Thank you.
Should there be anyone who maybe wanted to contribute to a plaque, can we just approve any other restricted funds to the plaque donation line item, so you don't have to come back and ask us to use additional funds at this time?
Great idea, I'd love that.
I like that. So we'll make a motion. You want to make that motion, and I'll
I
second it?
fumble through it.
Okay.
That we make a motion to approve the Historic Preservation Commission applying for a $2,500 grant and utilizing the currently donated $2,500 and any future funds donated towards the Community Enhancement Grant Program work. Is that sufficient?
Well, I guess so, yes, that if we use that amount so we only would be able to have the 5,000 for that program, then moving forward, we'd like to still have that ongoing signage program, so.
And the ongoing signage program.
Perfect, thank you.
Second.
Discussion. Another reel, more cookies. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Joe, you got that okay? Thank you. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code IC 74-206, 1 sub J, and 74206A, 1 sub A, to determine labor contract R2 formulate or offer a counter offer.
Discussion? Hearing
Well,
none.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
We are
Undecided.
undecided. Thank you, everyone.